Yeah. Okay, tough.
So, okay. We stopped yesterday, middle of Chafayim base 25b, right in the middle. Lo Yisiach and Adam Imayim. That's where we're holding. Okay, I think Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. In this course of our learning, we shall have basic English immediately. Learning also for Shlema for my father, and also for Naftali ben Minufabela. I heard from yesterday. Something is doing better. Okay. That's right. Okay, so it starts like this. This means that a person should not be secluded with a idolater. If a Jew comes along in the road, he's traveling along with an idolater. So it says, it's talking about when they're walking. So the Jew should put him on his right side. Puts him on his right side, right next to his right hand. He wants to keep him close. Let's see. We'll see exactly why. Rabbi Shmuel b'nei shel Rabbi Yechon ben Breka, Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yechon ben Breka, he says that it depends. Sayif, if he has a sword, a non-Jew would wear a sword. Now the sword they wore on their left side. So wants the sword to be close to his right hand so he can hold him. So he can't, because the way they pulled the sword out was from they pulled it with their right hand to the left side. But he's standing right next to the other person's left side, so he can grab the sword and make sure he doesn't do anything. And so it's definitely mean. But if it's b'makal, but if he has a stick, the stick you hold in the right hand. So if he puts him on his right side, then his right hand is down over there. So then Teifel Ismail, you put him over here. That way, at least your left hand could grab his right hand quickly, could grab that stick. Okay. This is, what do you mean? This is how it's done today?
Carry their gun and their stick on their right hand, most of them, because they're right-handed.
Oh, but they don't, today we don't really have anything on the left side.
They have taser, they have the other stuff on the left side also. But like the more, all of these.
Right. The, remember in the Navi, there was a lefty, Ehud, but he was able to get into the enemy camp with a small dagger. They only checked the left side. They wouldn't check the right side. So because it was a lefty, so he kept it on the other side. He was able to sneak in. Let's say they're going up steps, or Mila doesn't have to mean steps, it could mean some sort of elevation. They're going down. The Jew should not take the bottom. The Jew should always be on the top. You don't know what he's going to do. Jump and while Yeshuach lefanov shema yorutzes golgalte. Shouldn't bow down, not bow down, or bend over in front of him, like to pick something up or tie his shoes. Maybe he'll crush his skull. Let's say the non-Jew says, where are you headed? You should always say a later destination than where you're really headed. The derech shasa Yaakov Avinu, just like Yaakov Avinu did the Le'esav Arasha Tziv, Adashi Yavala Denisira, says, you go ahead, I'll get there, I'm on my way, until I reach Seir. And it says Yaakov Nasa Yaakov went to Sukkos, which was much closer. So the idea over here is that if you extend the journey, if you extend the itinerary, then the non-Jew is going to think that I have more time to get him. So, and then you just disappear. It's like, hey, missed my opportunity. Story, the students of Rabbi Akiva were going to Kziv. List him, approached him. He said, where are you going? Going to Akku. Akku is further than Kziv. Akku is on the border. Even Shigila Kziv, Pirshu. When they came to Kziv, which was much closer, they got off. Amalahan Talmidei mi atem. Talmidei mi atem. He said, of whose student are you? Amalahan, they said back, Talmidei Rabbi Akiva. Said, we're students of Rabbi Akiva. Amalahan, so they said, Ashir Rabbi Akiva Talmidei Shlei Pagam Adam Ram Yelam. Happy as the students of Rabbi Akiva that no one bad ever harmed them. No bad person harmed them. Well, this leaves me with a curious question. I'll be talking about the students of Rabbi Akiva, the 24,000. We'll be talking about the later students of Rabbi Akiva. And what's the lesson here? If it's the earlier ones, does this tell me anything about their behaviors? Okay. Rabbi Menashe of Azal Lebei Torta, Pagbe Ganbi. What? No. I'm not sure if that's accurate. Doesn't really have much about Rabbi Akiva's disciples later. They must be referring to something else. Okay. Rabbi Menashe Havi Ozel LeBeit Torta. Rabbi Menashe was on his way to Beit Torta, which is a place Pagabe Ganve. These bandits, robbers, approach him. Amalei Lan Kaslas. So where you headed? Amalehan Lepumpadisa. I'm headed to Pumpadisa. Apparently, that's much further than Beit Torta. Kimatla Beit Torta, when they reached Beit Torta parish. So he gets off. Says, sorry, this is my exit. Amr Lahu, Amr Lei, I'm sorry, they said to him, Talmida Yehuda Ramat. They're quoting the Rosh Hashiva in Pumbedisa was Rabbi Yehuda. Yehuda Bar Yecheskel was a student of Shmuel, the famous Rabbi Yehuda Marav, Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. This was apparently Rabbi Menashe was a student of Rabbi Yehuda in Pumbedisa. He was the founder of the yeshiva in Pumbedisa. Well, they said, you're a student of Yehuda the liar. Amalahu, he says to them, Yadisula, you know him. The way you talk about him, disparagingly, you people should have his curse. Apparently, he had given a curse to some woman. Rav Yehuda had given a curse to her, so that curse came true. So he said you should have that curse. Oslo Abdu Ganivta Esrim V'Tartinshnin. They continued their trade of being bandits for 22 years. And they weren't successful. They never made it big. Shvacha, this little pushka here, some shampoo in the mikveh there. They didn't really take much. They didn't get it. Huh? 22 years, yeah. Even the chazu, asakulu, tavushamti, they saw what was going on. Like, how come we never made it big? But we have a good business and we're not successful. So they came to ask forgiveness to get rid of the curse. There was one weaver that he said, I'm not going to ask. He was one of the bandits. Yeah. Apparently they're Jewish bandits. They know Rabbi Yehuda. He got eaten by a lion. And that's what people say. I really would like an explanation on this. A weaver that's not humble. Shata Batzer Mishneh. He loses years of his life. Tisha says that this is similar to the expression of the poor get poorer. Okay, Tochazi, come and see. Mabin Ganvi Baba list in there, Israel. What's the difference between or not what is, but see how great is the difference between the robbers of Bavel to the bandits of Eretz Yisrael. I guess robbers are less dangerous than bandits. Now, when they came to the Talmidei Rebbe Akiva, the bandits, when they realized how smart the Talmidei Rebbe Akiva were, they praised Rebbe Akiva. And over here in Bavel, when they realized what Rav Menashe did, they cursed him. They said they insulted the teacher. So you see that in Eretz Yisrael they have more respect and more better character than in Bavel.
Or the first one.
No, it could be the first ones were Jewish also. Doesn't say. Okay. And then we have a Mishnah. Mishnah says, Bas Yisrael leit siyaled es avedes kichavim. A Jewish girl, a Jewish woman, should not be a midwife for a non-Jewish woman, or not non-Jewish, it means an idolatrous woman, because she's going to be raising a child for Avodah Kichavim. Now you have to take into account that the idolaters in those days were a menace. You know, they were people that you didn't want to have around. So this would be just creating another problem. It wasn't just a different religion. It was more than that. It was bring like a terrorist in. But you're allowed to have a non-Jewish midwife, an idolatrous woman as a midwife to help a Jewish woman give birth. A Jewish girl should not be a wet nurse for the child of the Avodas Kichavim. Again, shouldn't be raising that child. But a non-Jewish woman could be a wet nurse for a Jewish child, as long as the mother is around. You don't want her to do anything bad to the child. So far, we don't say anything about the kosher. Okay. Rabbanan taught in the Bryce, but in the halacha, you'll see there's maybe some other details. You don't have the halachas, only the Koran has the halachas. Rabbanan was taught in the Bryce, we said that a Jewish woman should not be a midwife for an idolatrous woman, because that would be raising a child to be a menace. In the opposite, a non-Jewish woman shouldn't be a midwife for a Jewish woman, because we have a concern for murder. I don't know what they're going to do. Words of Reb Meir. Chacham say, Chacham say no. That's not a concern. And an idolatrous woman can be a midwife, even for Jewish women. But you have to have someone standing there. You have to have someone else. But when you take a haircut by a non-Jew, you have to have a mirror. They used to use a blade. Still use a blade, but they used to have like a sharp, like a razor. Yeah. So, Chachamim say there's someone there that's fine. Avalei bina, but not privately, not just them alone. That she shouldn't do. The Meir says, even if there's other people there, it's not. You can't do. You can't have this adulterous woman there as a midwife. On the baby's head, on his above his forehead, there's a very soft spot that where before the bones fuse, that soft spot. If the midwife would push on that, baby could die, and no one would notice. She's holding the baby, and she could sneakily kill the baby. So you have to be careful with that. That's what Meir says. Even with someone else there, she can still sneak. Kehi even have a story. There was a woman, a non-Jewish woman. She tells her non-Jewish friend, "Molda you daisa bas molda you daisa. You you dirty midwife of the Jews, daughter of the midwife of the Jews," like an insult. This her non-Jewish friend that she's a midwife of the Jews. Amrullah. So in defense, she responds, "Nefishin bishta dahi itza. You should have such a bad life. You should have such bad things should come to you, as much as the kamashpilna minei dama ki ufi dinara, as much as the blood of the Jews that I've spilt, like the foam on a river." So, in other words, this midwife is saying that I killed so many Jews, and they don't even know that this is what I'm doing. She's defending herself that she's a midwife of the Jews. But in that conversation, she ends up saying of what she did, that she killed so many Jewish people. So Meir has a good point. Rabbanan, what did the Rabbanan respond to that? No, the Milsavalmud Kimta, they're just talking. It's just that doesn't mean that she did that. She was insulted. She says back this. Doesn't mean it's not the reality. This is the.
It's like you don't want people with those thoughts around your kids.
So she defended herself in front of her friend. Okay. Bas Yisrael Tonic. A Jewish girl, a Jewish woman should not be a wet nurse for an idolatrous, the child of an idolatress. A Jewish woman should not be a wet nurse for the son of a idolatrous woman. What about for the daughter? Say, because she'll be raising a child for Avedis Kichavim. And also, and also, an idolatrous woman should not be a wet nurse for the son of a Jewish woman, because we suspect that maybe they'll murder the child. That's Reb Meir's opinion. Reb Meir was quite tough about this. He said the same thing when it came to midwife. The same thing about being a wet nurse. The Chachamim say, the Chachamim have their opinion here as well. And they say that would be fine as long as there's someone else in the room. A medes al gaba, someone that's standing there, making sure that she doesn't do any foul play. But you can't just drop off the baby and say, I'll be back later. Even if there's other people there, it's still not acceptable. You cannot do that. This concern is still there. Why? She may smear a poison on her breast, and when the baby nurses, the baby dies from the poison, and you won't be able to tell. A poisonous cream she would put on her. Okay, Bechtestein's going to search up if there's ever an occurrence of that. B'tzricha. And it's necessary to have both of these cases. We have
But I was thinking it has to be something like doesn't affect her. 'Cause even if someone puts something on their skin, it goes into their body.
yeah,
So it has to be
yeah.
something
So
like
she, they have the cream that's only it only affects internal, not topically. Okay, they knew all the herbs, they knew all the poisons. But shricha, and we need to have the machlekes between the chacham and Rav Meir in two cases, both in the case of the midwife and also in the case with the wet nurse. Yashmin miyaledes, if you would only tell me about the midwife, but he came Rabban over there, the Rabbanan said the shari that it's permissible. I said, why? Because how would the midwife kill the baby? Only externally, right? She's not nursing the baby, she's just, and if there's other people there, they can see what she's doing. Aval minika, but when it comes to the wet nurse, no one's going to see what she did. Before she came in, she already put on the cream. Now she comes in to nurse, even if you have other people there, but they don't know what cream she has on. Maybe the Rabbanan would agree to Rav Meir that it would be prohibited. And if it would tell us about the wet nurse, now the wet nurse, that's where Rav Meir says that it's aser, because he can't see what she did. Because she put on the cream beforehand, and she's going to kill the baby. But when it comes to the midwife, maybe Rav Meir would agree to the Rabbanan that you can use a non-Jewish, an idolatrous midwife, because people are there. So therefore, Tzricha, the mayor has to argue on both to tell us his full opinion. We have to get both cases here to understand what Rameir is saying.
the only concern is the poison. Maybe they inspect him before the baby. I'll put her maybe.
Maybe it's not visible. Ramino. Yeah, Hillel's suggesting that maybe they inspect the midwife every time, the wet nurse every time she comes in, make sure she doesn't have poison. How do they do it? They have a dog
No, they
taste the food.
No, they could just have her like wash
they clean it up.
or clean up anyways. Like, I'm not sure, but that's normal procedure.
I guess that wasn't an option. Ramino, that's the contradiction. Yehudis mi'aledes evedes kecham b'schar avlei b'chinam. That's the contradiction. A Jewish woman is allowed to be a midwife to an idolatrous woman as long as she's getting paid. She can't do it for free. What's the explanation? Why can't she do it for free? Because you see, she needs to have a way out. The reason why she's not going to be a midwife for the non-Jewish woman is she's going to say, I don't have time to come. I am busy supporting my family. You ask me for a favor. I should come and help you out. I can't. I can't. I'm busy. And also, by the way, midwives are on call, so it's not like a time that back then it wasn't scheduled deliveries. They gave birth when they gave birth. They didn't. I'm sure there was the concept of cesarean. You know, Caesar was a cesarean. That's why that's the name Caesar. But that wasn't typical. It wasn't like today.
I think for that you would need a hospital. Most of the time, people would deliver in the house.
Yeah, they did the same thing. It was everything was in the house. Yeah. Yeah. Did they have hospitals back then? What's the first hospital?
Where's Dr. Stein?
So did they have hospitals in Rome? Did they have hospitals? People were sick, were in their house. And the doctor would come to the house with his black bag. So, but once there's payment there, so then there's a problem. Okay, anyway, whatever the case is, we're seeing over here that a Jewish woman is allowed to be a midwife for a non-Jew, for an idolatrous woman, and we don't mention anything about raising the child to be a menace. And Rabbi Yosef says, no, we have a concern. We can't create a animosity between us and them. It's going to create more problems than what you're trying to accomplish. Right? You have to look at the big picture. So if once there's a payment, then there's a problem of Ava. You can't. There's no excuse. What do you say? You're busy. You don't have time because you're busy earning a living. So I'm going to pay you that money. So then you don't have an excuse. Then you're allowed to go. And Sav Rabbi Yosef Lameimar. Rabbi Yosef understood based on this. Probably even on Shabbos it's allowed, because since we Machal Shabbos for a woman that's giving birth, right? So the same thing should be Misham Eva, but because of animosity, we don't create animosity. For a non-Jew, Amalei Abaya says, no. You could say Lidi dan the Mintri Shabbat Machalina Alayo. We're only Machal Shabbos for people that keep Shabbos. Abaya is saying, no, they'll understand that you're not going. It's only people that are part of the club you can violate Shabbos. For those that keep Shabbos, you violate Shabbos. Those that don't keep Shabbos get their own people and that's not going to create animosity. Well, Sav Rabbi Yosef L'Meimar, Anuki B'Schar Shari Mishameva. The same thing would apply to nursing. That you're allowed to nurse a child of an idolatress, because or else would create animosity. And what would we say, as long as there's payment? Abaya says, no, you can get out of this. Apparently Abaya is a better communicator than Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef is like saying, no, it's gonna. Abaya says, no, you can explain, give an excuse. If she's a single, I think what it means here is single must mean that she was widowed or divorced. How else could she be nursing? Right? I want to get married, and if I'm going to nurse, it's not going to make me I won't be as pretty. Did they comment over there anything? Why would nursing affect her getting married? I'm sullied. No, that's not it. That's the next command. And will encounter difficulties if I nurse a child. Okay, what's the difficulties? For nursing will weaken me physically and mar my beauty. That's for Yonis and Millennial. But she won't be as pretty, or she'll be weak. But if she's a married woman, just like Ms. Damna Bapi Gavra, I don't want to be dirty in front of my husband. In front of so Abaya is saying that she has so many excuses. She shouldn't need to nurse this child. She can get out of it. Rabbi Yosef also understood to say this, that it says that an idolater or those people that shepherd small animals that ruin the land in Eretz Yisrael, which is a problem, right? Even if they're Jewish, but it says it says that you don't support them, you don't help them, and you also don't harm them. You don't take them out of a pit, you also don't push them into the pit. So that's what it says about these people. However, asuki b'schar shari mishameva. But if they say, "I'll pay you," how do you get out of not taking them out of the pit if they're stuck in the pit? You say, "I'm so sorry. I have things to do. I can't help you now. Maybe I'll come back later if my work is finished early." But if he says, "No, I'm going to pay you that money that you're going to earn," so then you have to stop and take them out because of animosity. Abaya says, "Why? You don't have to take him out. You could get out of it. You could say, I have to run. My son is on the roof. I have to get him down from the roof. It could be dangerous. Inami, I have an appointment with the government. Today means the post office, but over here means the government. I have a very important appointment. I cannot stop. In that right, in that Verplank, that no kosher meat, that video. So the guy's getting pulled over by the police. So the Chassidish guy is trying to help him out. So he says his wife is in labor. So he said, "Is your wife in labor?" He says, "No, I'm not married." He's more honest. The driver's being more honest than the passenger. Anyway. Tanur Rabavo Kamid Rabbi Yechanan. Rabavo taught in front of Rabbi Yechanan. Ha'ivdei kechavim v'rei behimedaka leimalin v'loi meiridin. He's teaching. Rabavo is a student of Rabbi Yechanan. He's teaching in front of Rabbi Yechanan that idolaters or shepherds of these small animals, you don't support them, you don't take them out of the pit, but you also don't bring them down in the pit. Aval haminim. When it comes to the heretics, Rashi says this means priests of idolatry. Priests of idolatry. Now they may be not Jewish, or they may be Jewish actually. Cyrus. I'm a Cyrus. These are informers. Musser. These are people that inform the government in ways that harm the Jewish people. You're right, exactly. And the Hamumrim, we have in our Gemara Hamumrim, and in the Koran, it's corrected to Mishumadim. Do you have that correction there? In the article? Mishumad is someone that converts to Christianity.
A renegade?
Yeah. They don't have it?
Yeah, renegades.
Okay, so they're translating it, but they're not using that word, Mishumad. Apparently, the word Mishumad was a term that was used for someone a Jewish person that converted to Christianity, and it's a derogatory based on something. It's like a curse of some sort. So these people are different.
Did it willingly?
Yeah. This way, Hayamaridim Malam. These people, you actually bring them into the pit and you don't raise them up. Amalei, this is Rabbi Vo saying this in front of Rabbi Yechanan. Amalei, Rabbi Yechanan responds. He says, Ani Shaina, I teach which would be corrected to Meshumad. I say that these people, the Meshumad, that you actually have to return the lost object. If you find an object that belonged to him, it doesn't say it's Salem. You searched it up, but you know which person it is?
Yeah. Two answers, one question.
1 second. And you say that you have to bring them down into the pit. I say you have to support them by returning their lost objects. Sami mikan mumar. You have to erase the mumar from this discussion because it doesn't apply to this.
Question number one about women suckling babies and women. Did they ever apply anything topically that? First of all, nowadays, any pregnant or lactating woman, I mean, any medicine they use, topical or otherwise, this is safe during pregnancy and nursing. This is not. So obviously, we have listed medicines who are historically came across. There was one case of a woman who did apply camphor to her, that area because to relieve pain. All right, camphor is toxic to babies. Actually, unfortunately, killed the baby. So camphor, without a question, and that was available back then. Second question you asked was, my dog gets a lot of education. Well, all right. Second question was, how old is the oldest hospital document?
Right.
So it's not that it's a machlokas, but it's two different places. apparently back in the 5th century, for
Really?
the Common Era in Greece, there was a hospital. And otherwise, in the 4th and 3rd centuries in Sri Lanka and in India, there were definitely hospitals.
Where are you getting
going
that
on.
source? Is that ChatGPT or
That
you?
was ChatGPT.
So it's not verified.
It's
Okay.
not verified. It's the best I could do this morning while walking.
Okay,
my
so they've
dog.
had hospitals that have gone back, but it was, I don't think it was as common as
No. But I mean,
I
they.
think people got sick. They think they were at home. You know,
The-
Even 100 years ago, they would have to drive like hours to get to a.
right.
The third thing was the last thing. Oh, was Yeshu considered a mishumad or
I think so.
mumar? How
Oh.
could he be a mishumad if the religion was created after him?
Oh, okay. I don't know.
See my question?
But still.
Okay, but
he was-
we're associating it exactly the same. That when it says here mumar, it means mishumad.
So I think he was a mumar, and then his father was a mishumad.
Right. Okay.
Thank you very much for the
he
question.
went up-
Yeah, but
Even
the
if-
question is if the term applies. So the Gemara asks over here, why don't we just give a simple teretz? When we're saying over here, lishni kan b'mumar eichel neveil satiyav and kan mumar eichel neveil slahachas. Why don't you just make a distinction? Because there's two types of mumar. Why did he leave the religion? There's two possibilities. It could be he left the religion because he has this appetite for prohibited things. So he says, temptation. And the other one is, no, I don't believe. I'm doing this on purpose. Right? What's the difference between when you do miftayim on the Sephardi, you do Ashkenazi? So you go to the Sephardi, you say you want to put on tefillin. So he says, of course. And he puts it on. He says, how can you put on every day? He says, oh, the Zara, whatever. Yeah, that's it. Go to the Ashkenazis, you want to put on tefillin? He says, oh, okay, fine, I'll put it. He says, how about you put on every day? He says, did you ever read Darwin? Gives you like a whole philosophy thing, like.
And you
Okay,
don't like my answers?
No,
so
I do is just to be after class.
okay, so
They were
why don't we just give a
questions for
simple?
the class.
Why don't we give a simple distinction here? That if it's l'tiyavan, so if it's because he has an appetite, so then okay, he has a yitzhara. So we turn the lost object. But if it's lahachas, if he's doing that on purpose, then we'll say that you put him down in the pit, and that will be that will respond. It says kasavar, because he holds, Rabbi Avo holds that oichel nevelas lahachas is minhu. Now you have to realize that we had three categories of people here that we were saying that you bring them down into the pit. Not only don't you raise them, but you actually bring them down. Now, who are those people? Who are those people? Minim, which we called heretics, informers, and the mumar, or mishumad, mumar, mumar. We asked, but the mumar, you return the lost object to. So we could have said there's two types of mumar. Now, if that's the case, then one of these, which one that you bring down, that mumar would be already in the category of a min. So he can't answer that the mumar that I'm talking about is the one that's lahachas, that's in spite. I'm doing it in spite. He can't answer that because that was listed differently.
So he's a min debate.
Itmar.
Change the language.
Someone joked, they said, on Purim, when you give shalach manas, it's supposed to give two types of food. It says two minim. So someone said, I'm going to give you two philosophy books. That's going to be my shalach manas. Two minim. Okay, Itmar. It was stated by Amiraim. It says mumar, when it comes to the mumar, which actually, according to the Koran, the original version, it should be meshumad, pligi, Ravach and Rabina. It's machlekes between Ravach and Rabina. Chana malateyavan. One says that the mumar is considered a mumar when it's because he has an appetite for prohibited things, and the other says mumar is lahachas when he does it in spite. I'm sorry, mumar is latiyavan. When lahachas is minhu. If he does it in spite, then he's already a min. He's a heretic. The difference between a min and a mumar is that a min is much worse, and if he writes a Sefer Torah, you have to destroy it, I think. So there's a difference between a min and versus a mumar. The other one says, I feel lahachas nami mumar. No, this mumar, even if he's even if it's lahachas, he's also a mumar. Even if it's a spite.
In Shemona Esrei, when against Chom and Nim, don't mention mumar.
Right. Elaizel min. So according to this, what would a min be? If a mumar is someone that does lahachas, a min is zeha eved alili kechavim. This is someone that worships idols. That's a min. He's not worshiping idols. He's just not following the religion. Meisvei, I have a question. We have a question on the one that says that he's a min. We have a question because if someone eats a mosquito or he eats some other insect, which obviously doesn't taste great, we know he's not doing that because he wants the pleasure, right? He's doing it because obviously because he wants to show that he doesn't believe. We say that he's a mumar. But obviously he's doing it in spite. Why else would he eat a mosquito? Eat a parish is like a gnat or something. Why would he be doing that if he's not? If it's so, and you're calling him a mumar. According to you, he should be a min. According to that opinion that says that if it's lahachas, he's a min. So it's hasam boy limitim time of the surah because he wanted to see what non-kosher food tastes like. So it's still because he has an appetite. It's not, even though this actually doesn't taste good, but it's like Rabbi Shapiro said it was years ago. It was a Bachar in Yeshiva that he heard that Averas are very enjoyable. So he looked in the Torah, what's like a big Avera? He said Chalev, a big Avera. So forbidden fats. So he said he finds all the candles were made out of fat. Finds a candle, he tries to eat the candle. He says, I don't know what they're talking about. It doesn't seem that it's so pleasurable. Okay.
It seems like curious if he gets pleasure from what he's doing. But is it too far removed that he gets pleasure from being defiant?
Yeah, well, yeah, the pleasure from being defiant is defiance. That's that we're not saying that. I hear what you're saying. That's like a psychological pleasure. Maybe that's why there's machlekes about this. Maybe. Amar Mar, the master taught. We mentioned before how you may read in avalei ma'ilin. You bring them down and you don't bring them up. Hashta, the Gemara asks the question. Hashta achusi machtina nasukim yivay. If you bring them in the pit, you push them in the pit. Of course, you don't bring them up. Like, what's that? Why do you have to say that? But you don't bring them up. What it means that you don't bring them up is that that if there was a ledge by the pit, megara, the nakat leila, because you use an excuse, you take away that ledge. You use an excuse. You say, I don't want animals to stand on it because they might fall in. Meanwhile, the guy's in the pit and he needs it to get up. But apparently, what we're saying is, avalei ma'ilin, you don't help him get up, means that you actually remove something there that he could have gotten up and you're taking it away.
Is this purely physical, or is there any message here, like on, be yamino, when you push with the left and pull back with the right? In this case, you just push with the left and you don't pull back.
This is saying that these are bad people. We can't have them around. They're dangerous people. And but you still need an excuse to them why you're doing this, because you can't create more harm than. So Rabbi Tabai, I'm sorry.
The last one, it seems like you make sure that he doesn't get out. Like
Make sure he doesn't get out, but you tell him that you're doing it for beneficial, right?
You're not going to tell him.
You're in jail for the rest of your life. It's for your benefit.
Let's say there was a stone on top of it. You cover it over, cover the pit over, the guy's in it, you cover it over, you say, because the animals, I don't want them to fall in. Ravina says, Shema Yasulam, if there was a ladder in the pit that he could get out, Misalka, you take the ladder away. I need the ladder. It's very important. I have to get my son down from the roof. He's stuck on the roof. I have to run. Sorry. Okay, let's leave it over here.
So shepherd is
Grab the
small
tunnel
animals, like lambs, goats.
Yeah.
So what about
Where did-
others? Like,
How did they shepherd? It was this. This was a decree that was made later, because people weren't careful with it.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Atzlacha.
Thank you.
And